I had my employees call and wake up my boss every 15 minutes. I supervised a glass manufacturing department. One night we had an issue with a thermocouple that controls the temperature of the glass. Because it was creating nuisance alarms, the operator disconnected it and forgot to notify the next shift to monitor it manually. We lost control of the furnace for a couple of hours, and scrapped product. The plant manager came in that morning screaming and ripped the entire staff a new one. We were trying to explain that the thermocouple needed to be fixed, but instead he continued to yell at us, tell us we were idiots, and told us to monitor it and notify him every time it went into alarm, or else he would fire us. To further reprimand us, he insisted that we call him at home in the evening every time that temperature went into alarm so he could ensure we were doing our jobs. What he did not know, and what we knew, was that the alarm for the broken thermocouple happened about every 15 minutes. My operator was worried and asked me what he should do. Since the plant manager was so insistent, I told the operator to wait until after midnight, then call and inform him every time it happened according to his direct request. The plant manager came into work the next morning very bleary-eyed, and sheepishly told us that we did not have to do that again. He finally listened to us and we got the problem fixed. TLDR, if you are abusive to my people, I will be a total dick. Now to the comments. Very well executed, malicious compliance. This is beautiful, live by the policy, die by the policy. If you are abusive to my people, I will be a total dick. I will always be willing to work for someone like you. Took a rather substantial pay cut once to do so, and never regretted it. OP replied, I agree. My best bosses have been this way. When I have done it, it has cost me a position or two over the years, but I have slept very well at night. Well, for one, you didn't tell workers to call you all night long instead of fixing the problem. I've been in restaurant management for quite a while and this is my same outlook. Duck with my people and I will duck your day up. Be careful how you treat your service staff. The movie Waiting isn't that far off from reality. OP replied, people really are the most valuable resource. They can make your operation, or break your operation. They can make you look good, or make you look terrible. I too have always had the belief that you never mess with someone making minimum wage, and never mess with someone making your food. Maybe you work in a different country than me, but here in the USA people are headcount and cost units and certainly less valuable than the toilet paper in the restroom. This is of course supported by national government policies. Companies are assured of an endless supply of desperate people willing to work like slaves for minimum wage, along with free overtime. They don't like it, fire them and replace with the next person in line. Message to management. Listen to your ducking operators. It's ridiculous that management thinks they are much smarter than operators. What do operators know? What's going on with the equipment, because they run the equipment all the time. OP replied, exactly. All the education in the world doesn't beat a veteran who has touched, watched, listened to, and smelled the same machine for 30 years. I've had operators accurately predict imminent failure just on an unusual sound or a weird smell. J. Hey Bob. B. Yeah Jim. J. You smell that? B. Yeah. Like a cat's hairball got caught in a dryer? Shit, but hold on. Do you also hear a weird sound? It's only bad if you smell it and hear the weird sound. J. I hear it, like little fairies tap dancing on porcelain. B. Shut it down. One might say he was alarmed. OP replied. QCSI Miami theme music. Heathen. It's called Won't Get Fooled Again by The Who. Once again, until it impacted them personally, they didn't give a shit. With yelling and screaming, the plant manager clearly gave a shit. It's that they didn't respect their team enough to listen and find out what was actually going on. OP replied. You nailed it, the problem was essentially solved before he came in. Lesson learned. What is it about the glazing industry and upper management being dominated by people who treat their staff like they are unskilled idiots? Old hassle sounds like the worst, but most shops have stories about bosses like yours. American Factory is a fascinating documentary on the topic. OP replied. Unfortunately, those attitudes aren't confined to glazing. I have found it to be pretty universal across different types of industries where workers are treated pretty much like meat. I will check out that documentary. Oh man, props to being a furnace manager. I did that for a half-year stint and it was way too stressful for me. I remember staying 5 hours late climbing around in the cullet silo to unclog a Maxon valve that got jammed. OP replied. You're smarter than I was. It took me 20 years to finally do something else. That and the fact that nearly every glass plant around me not making beer or wine bottles was going out of business. You might want to look into can production. It's all the rage now and they're opening new plants to meet the rising demand. Wow, that manager sounds like a total glass. A real glass hole if I ever saw one. I had a great supervisor one day tell me that the best way to change a bad rule is to follow it to the ducking letter. I have lived by that ever since. OP replied. Thank you. This is the way. Reminds me many companies ago when a new person in IT wanted a ticket for each customer affected by an issue. Usually if an internal portal bug affected multiple/all customers, we'd put in one internal ticket and note the number of customers affected, if large/all, or provide a list. The tickets are important of course, but the duplication is just tons of wasted time to manage for everyone. Nope, he wanted one ticket per customer, and after much debate with execs getting copied in and such, that was the call. Okay. Did I mention we were also sort of a dev team and had API access to the system? So the next time a bug affecting all customers was found, I was nice, and responded back to the thread vs just doing it. Hence no MC post. I'm about to run a script to create about 10,000 tickets for minor issue that is affecting all customers. Let me know by X if we shouldn't proceed. Our CIO called me, apologized for not realizing what he'd supported, and squashed it, and after the new guy had settled in for a few months, he actually worked out well. Just needed to chill first and understand things before changing them. Later even added a cool way to link and track customers to internal tickets, including all, that accomplished the good part of the idea. I have to deal with shit like this a lot. What I've finally conceded is that the supervisor is just worried about his job too. He gets all the flack for everyone's mistakes. Doesn't change anything, though. You get treated how you treat me, period. Couple of employees and I, the rock stars his words, finish our responsibilities a bit early, so we sort of stand around in our area talking. He sees this and comes to lecture us about it. Next time you're here on a Saturday, I want you to think about this standing around. Okay bro, our efficiency is what we should be thinking about. We all slowed down. So instead of having time to potentially do something else if the need arises, we will be milking every second out of what's required. Smart move. He finally listened to us and we got the problem fixed. That's pretty much plan A to get a fix authorized. Annoy the person stonewalling. Yep. Nurse here, and there was one doctor in particular who liked to take people off sedation meds while they were on the vent. This was to get the PT awake enough to get them off the vent, but even if the PT failed the wean test, he would not restart the meds, resulting in constant vent alarms. The trick was to start calling him at about 11 o'clock at night to let him know the patient was still fighting the vent and restless in the bed and could potentially jerk their breathing tube out. Then he would give you all the sedation medications in the world to keep you from calling him back. Okay. Googling wasn't clear. Ween test? Not sure if that's supposed to be ween, wiener, or something completely different. The key is to convince some new employee to call every 15 minutes, no matter what the boss says from his phone at home in the middle of the night. Tenacity is needed. Got something similar also from my time in a glass plant. My guys were tasked with taking readings on the coating system that coated the bottles as they came out of the layers, annealing ovens, that take the stress out of glass. The customer noticed that we had missed several of these hourly checks after the day shift left for the day. As a result, they took it up with the ops manager. To cut a long story short, his corrective action was to make my guys call him every time they were going to miss a check because they were too busy fixing machines to take the coating readings. And so I enforced his ruling. It took a week for him to start turning his phone off at night. I told them to leave voicemails, which they did for the remaining year that I worked there. If you are curious, we only had one guy in the area where these machines were located that took the readings at night, but that was just a side responsibility. Their main responsibility was making emergency repairs, so quite often they would be too busy and would miss 2 or 3 of these hourly checks every night. OP replied, "This is the way."